I'm Claire from Wild Ginger Running, and this is my review of 5 bone conduction headphones, ranging from £19 all the way to £160. What do you get for your money? Why should you pay over £100 when you could get a pair on Amazon for under 20 quid? I've been finding out using all of these on my ultra running training over the last few months. Now, do you have any of these, or are you thinking of buying a pair? Tell me in the comments below, and please use my affiliate links in the film description below if you'd like to buy any of these. So first of all, what are bone conduction headphones, or bone phones as I like to call them, and why should runners be interested in them? Well, bone phones create vibrations through your cheekbone straight to the inner ear, bypassing the eardrum and leaving you free to hear sounds from the world around you. This is super useful for runners who need to hear the traffic, people coming up behind us, instructions from marshals. It's safety really, but also as a trail runner, I think it's nice to listen to both birdsong and a podcast at the same time. They also never fall out of your ears when you thump downhill because they hook over the top. And yes, they do still work with sunglasses and a hat or a visor. One of the biggest surprises was that the second cheapest one here at 60 quid actually has a really useful function that none of the others seem to have. So let's start with a deep dive on the cheapest bone phones in the test. The Comblu Sports Bluetooth headset is only £19 and it's the lightest here by a few grams at 21 grams. I was intrigued to try this one because it's just so massively cheap compared to the Openrun Pros at £160. Unfortunately, the sound quality is not great, verging on totally crap in certain situations, but they do work, especially in a quiet indoor environment. They pair easily with your phone and you can hear your music, a podcast, or take a phone call. However, the sound overall is quieter, tinnier. There's a noticeable tickly buzz on your skin on the louder settings, and it does sound like the sound is very far away in a big echoey room. The finish is also completely smooth, so it doesn't grip your skin like the smooth grippy silicone feel of the others here. And once you're outside and running, it doesn't take a lot of wind before it's hard to hear a podcast or someone's voice on the phone. And these don't come with any earplugs like the others do, but using some might help a lot in these situations. So for example, I called my sister on a fairly calm day and she complained so much of this whoomph, whoomph, whoomph sound like she was in a womb that I had to switch my iPhone on and use speaker mode, and then it was fine. So other features, the charging connector is a ubiquitous USB micro B connector, whereas the more expensive bone phones have a unique magnetic charging cable that you have to remember to pack. So that could be considered an advantage. There's no mention of a quick charge option, and it does say they last for 20 hours on a 2-hour full charge, which is twice as long as the best here, but they are most probably quoting standby time rather than in-use time here, because this is the standard for the other bone phones here. The setup of the buttons is also not great. The power button is above the volume button and the charging point, so it's easy to turn your music off when you just wanted to adjust the volume or skip a track or activate the voice assistant. And you can easily mistake the charging point for the volume button as well. So the verdict. So I think we've established that these are not the best bone phones, but what did we expect really for £19? Even if you're on a massively tight budget, I wouldn't buy these. Respect yourself, respect your ears, start saving. Next up, we have the £60 9 digital Super Q3 bone conduction sport headphones, which are a whopping £100 less than the Shokz Openrun Pro, and yet they boast a great function mode that none of the others have. We'll get to that in a moment, but first they weigh a respectable 32 grams and they're very waterproof, rated at IP67. The sound quality is definitely better than £19 bone phones, but music still sounds a bit tinny, far away in an echoey room, and you have to have the volume on the loudest possible to hear a podcast or a phone call, even in light wind, which makes them buzz slightly on your cheekbones. On a call, the recipient reported a crackly, sometimes intermittent sound that was harder to hear in the wind. When I switched to the next headphone up in the test without telling them, they reported a much better sound experience. Other features, so the charging point is a ubiquitous USB-C connector, so like the previous review, it's less of a disaster if you forget your charger because somebody else is bound to have one of these. These bone bonephones are covered with smooth but grippy silicone that keeps them nice and secure on your head, the front bit but not the back bit. And on a full 1.5 to 2 hour charge, they last for 8 hours, which is up there with the bonephones priced over £100. The setup of the buttons is better too, with the on-off button and the volume adjusters under the left-hand side raised enough so that they're reasonably easy to find with gloves on, and you're not going to mistake them for the charging port. And there's another easy to find function button on the left earpiece too. These 9 digital bonephones have all the functions you'd expect from the more expensive bonephones, including volume, skip tracks back and forwards, activate voice assistant, but the function I am truly, honestly thrilled about is called Skip to Forward Song. This is a triple click that skips the music or the podcast forward by a few seconds. Yes, none of the other bonephones have this function, I don't think. And before I did this test, I was thinking I'd love my favorite pair to do that so that I could skip through the more irritating podcast adverts. Maybe the podcast companies are in league with the bonephone makers to prevent this. So the verdict. So while I'm very impressed at this super useful skip forward function and wish the other bonephones had it, unfortunately the sound quality of the 9 digital Super Q3 bone conduction sport headphones are not good enough for me to use over my favorite pair here. So I'll just have to keep digging my phone out to skip those irritating adverts. Now for the next price jump. What extras are we getting from the Haylou PurFree BC01 bone conduction headphones that cost £100? These weigh a nice light 28 grams and are rated IP67, meaning they're very waterproof. Well, apart from a bigger, more stylish box, here you'll be pleased to know that sound quality does make a nice leap upwards in quality, especially for that poor person on the end of the phone. The moment I changed to these from the previous bonephones, my long-suffering sister-in-law this time suddenly said, "Oh, that's a lot better now." And I had to turn the volume down a couple of levels on these because the sound was just overall a lot louder. The sound quality now with the Haylous is good, and had I not experienced the £160 Shokz Openrun Pros, I might even have been happy to stop here. The main difference in sound quality between these and the Pros is that music and podcasts do still sound quieter on the same volume level and a little far away, and the music is good, but it's just missing some fullness that I can't explain very well. It's kind of thinner, a little bit tinnier with less bass. You do have to turn them up louder than the Pros when it's windy too, and they do supply you with earplugs for this. The microphone doesn't seem to be quite as well protected from wind noise as the Pros when you make calls too in windier weather. So features. The charger has a unique magnetic attachment, so you need to make sure you don't forget this on trips away. Usage life is 8 hours, and for £100 we're now getting some additional super useful features, including a handy 10-minute quick charge for 2 hours of playing time. And you can find out how much juice the battery has left at the press of a button. The Haylous also have all the usual bonephone functions of volume, skip tracks back and forth, activate the voice assistant, but now for this price we have a dual device connection. So for example, you can watch a film on your laptop but not miss out on an important phone call with both connected. The buttons are also in sensible places, the volume clearly on the right and another easy to find function button on the left earpiece. Verdict. So it seems that £100 might be the minimum you need to spend on a pair of bonephones so that they're suitable for running outdoors. These are more than adequate unless the wind is really high, which to be honest is a problem for all bonephones and for which they supply earplugs. But keep watching, because this test has proved to me that you really do get what you pay for when it comes to bonephone sound quality. And if you're still here, why not click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other gear reviews and trail and ultra running advice from Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel. You could also support me on Patreon, become a YouTube member, or do one of those super thanks things on YouTube if you really appreciate all these films being free to watch forever on YouTube. So thank you very much if you're feeling generous today. So the next bonephones that I want to tell you about don't have quite as good sound quality as the Haylous, but they have a particular extra feature that you might be interested in if you swim or if you don't want to take your phone with you. So the Naenka Runner Divers cost a tad more at £140, and they are the most waterproof here at IP68. This makes them fully waterproof and submersible up to 2 meters for 2 hours. They weigh the most, but only slightly by a few grams at 35 grams. The big difference with these is they can store 16 gigabytes of music, so that's around 2,400 songs, so you can put it into MP3 mode and then use them in the Bluetooth incompatible water without the connection to your phone. The waterproof feature is the main advantage to these bonephones because I found the sound quality for music, podcasts and calls not as good as the Haylous. They're noticeably more hissy with the snare and drum beats and people singing or saying S's, and this definitely makes the music experience in particular less pleasurable. Battery wise, they have an impressive 10 hours of playback time from a 1.5 hour charge. There's no mention of a quick charge though, and the charger is a unique magnetic charger, so you must remember to pack that. It has all the usual features of volume, skip tracks, back and forth, activate voice assistant, but there's no mention of dual device connection either like the Haylous do. I also found these a slightly different shape on my head too. The ear loops were narrower and at an angle that made them sit closer to my ear holes. They don't feel as comfy for me, but maybe they're designed to be a little bit tighter on your head as you propel yourself through the water. The buttons are easy enough to use and to find, but the clearly raised volume buttons are on the top of the sidearm, which does take a bit of getting used to because all the others are underneath. So the verdict, in many ways these don't have as many useful functions and features, nor do they have as good sound quality as the Haylous, which are cheaper, but if you swim, the Naenka Runner Divers will definitely be the ones you need to go for. And finally, we're on to my favourite pair of bonephones. It was actually a relief to get back to using my Shokz Openrun Pros. Yes, they're £160. It's a lot, but the sound quality is honestly streets ahead of all the other ones here. And no, I'm not being paid by Shokz to say this. They gifted me these about a year ago, and I was just curious to see if they're worth it. Watch this film here to see me compare the Openrun Pros to the previous best model, the Aeropex, now sort of known as the Openrun at £130. So back to the pros. The music feels immersive, fully rounded, there's more bass, it definitely doesn't feel like you're in an echoey hall, it's right next to you, and it's very listenable for a long time, much more so than all the others here, I find. So overall, these are louder and clearer for just everything, music, podcasts, phone calls, and you can hear more than the others in windier conditions while you run too, without having to have them on full blast and buzzing your cheekbones. Importantly, the person you're calling also has more protection from wind noise from your on the microphone, but I don't find bonephones on the whole amazing at cutting wind noise out when you're for other people on the phone, so I do think there's some room for improvement everywhere there. I have in the past pulled my hood over my head or worn a buff over my ears to more successfully block out the wind noise for the person on the other end of the line, but you're less likely to be wearing those things in the summer. Maybe I could try a tiny dead mouse for the microphone hole, maybe something head appropriate like a dead knit maybe? The other downside is that despite these being an upgrade to the previous model, they're not now as waterproof at IP55, which is only water resistant as opposed to waterproof. That said, I haven't had any issues in running in all weathers and all seasons with these. I've even used them in the shower, and I have actually been swimming with them doing breaststroke, keeping my head out of the water. Playback time is an impressive 10 hours with only 1 hour of charging, and there's a quick charge of 1.5 hours from just 5 minutes plugged in. The charger is a unique magnetic connector, so you need to remember to pack it, but Shokz are quite a well-established brand, so it might not be too hard to find one to borrow. There are all the usual functions: volume, skip tracks, back and forth, activate voice assistant, plus dual device connection like the Haylous. The only thing missing for me is that 20-second skip forward function like in the 9 digital £60 bonephones. I feel an email to Shokz coming on. Care to join me? So the verdict, once you've tried the Shokz Openrun Pros, it will be very hard to use any of the others out here in terms of sound quality. It's so much better in every single way, and I'm pleased to have proved this to myself in this test that it is worth spending top whack on a pair of bonephones. Obviously, if you want to swim, it's got to be the Naenka Runner Divers, and if you really can't find that extra 60 quid and you're not too bothered about music quality, then yes, I recommend the Haylou PurFree BC01s. They'll do you just fine because you won't know what you're missing. Just don't borrow these from a friend. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope it helped you choose the right bonephones and also importantly helped spread the word bonephones to describe this type of headphone. Do you have any of these, or are you thinking of buying a pair? Tell me in the comments below and use my affiliate links in the film description if you'd like to buy any of these in particular. Please like and subscribe, buy my book for more info and support me on Patreon, or become a member on YouTube, or click the super thanks button if you appreciate all this stuff being free on the interweb. Patrons also do get special perks like priority questions for my live chat experts, access to me for training questions, automatic entry into the monthly competition to win £400 worth of trail running goodies, and a few exclusive extra videos, and patrons get to be part of our friendly and supportive Facebook group, which is very active and fun to be in. If you don't feel like parting with any extra cash right now, let's face it, fuel bills are hoovering up all our money, hence why I'm asking, you can support Wild Ginger Running in plenty of other ways for free. You can like all my films, subscribe, get your family and friends to like and subscribe, write regular nice comments on all my film. Actually, the YouTube algorithm loves comments. They don't even have to be nice. Even if you write that you hate my films, you're actually helping me. This is brilliant. Troll away. And if you see people with trail running questions in Facebook groups or just online anywhere, Google the main thrust of their query plus Wild Ginger Running, and one of my advice films should come up, so you can copy and paste the link to help them out. And if you're buying anything on Amazon, click on one of my affiliate links first. They're in the description below in most of my gear reviews, or use my affiliate link to my book on any of my other films. Then search for what you need in the same window, and if you buy it, it links back to Wild Ginger Running, and I get a few pennies for opening the door to your purchase. But anyway, thank you very much for whatever way that you support the channel, even just by watching these films on repeat. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoy making these films for you. So see you on the trails, possibly wearing the Shokz Openrun Pros.